Hello, human peoples. You're listening to the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. To support us and gain access to great exclusive podcasts like Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and our latest show, Spiel Boys, head over to patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. We do game streaming, movie nights with our patrons every Friday night, and you can even commission your own podcast about anything you want. Literally anything, within reason, and we have to do it. You are quite frankly out of excuses not to go visit patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds.
Okay. Fuck it. Hi, everybody.
Hello,
Let's
everyone.
do this. Get through the intro. My name is David Bell.
My name is Tom Ryman.
And we just watched Madam Web. Fucking Lady Morbius. Here we come.
Oh, man. Boy, oh, boy. It was Morbin time.
He was in the Amazon with my mom when she was researching spiders right before she died.
For like 2 hours.
Yeah. For
Two solid hours of Morbin
Something like
time.
2 to 4 hours. Not sure.
Yeah. Time really dilated when I walked into that theater.
Holy shit. This
It was
is
like
one of those
getting
podcasts.
close. It was like being on the edge of a black hole.
Yeah. Tom, this is one of those podcasts where I feel like we don't even need the other person. Does that make sense? Like, I think either one of us could, for 45 minutes, talk.
Just talk unbroken about Madam Web.
Yeah, so this is, everybody's talking about Madam Web. It's the new
Are
Morbius. They are, but not seeing it. No one's seeing it. Tom, my theater did have more people than I expected. And in the first 10 minutes... Yeah. In the first 10 minutes, 2 kids got kicked out for talking. And I don't know what's worse, getting kicked out of Madam Web or complaining about someone during Madam Web. Like, there's no winners there.
Listen, I paid $8 for this experience. I really want to focus on it.
On Madam Web.
Yeah. Man, getting kicked out of Madam Web.
I know. That's so sad.
How do you come back from that?
I don't think you do. I think that's rock bottom.
You have to change schools. You have to move.
Yeah. Holy shit, Madam Web. Where to begin? I guess, Tom, I have a few questions.
It's hard to say where to begin.
Yeah. Here's, I guess, my big take. So I have some questions for you because I assume you know more about what Madam Web is.
Oh gosh, we'll see.
More than me.
Barely, yeah.
My vibe is there was probably like a really good movie in the original idea, but they wanted to make a conventional superhero movie and that ruined it. Does that make sense? Like, it felt like this wasn't a conventional superhero story. Madam Web, from what I can tell, she's paralyzed and blind, and she keeps to this like device that's web-like and astral projects. I think that's what she is. The movie doesn't help.
As far as I know. I don't know much about her. She's in comics that I kind of stopped reading around this time.
Right.
I think she's actually older than that. But she's a weird character that's like an old lady, too. So,
yes.
I remember hearing this idea being pitched as a movie, however many years ago it was, when this was first entering into production, really confounded me at the time. Because I couldn't conceive of what a movie about this character would be. And this is what it was. Yeah, apparently nobody could have either.
That's the thing. So I guess I'll start because this is a bad movie, right? This is a bad movie.
This is pretty fascinatingly bad.
Yes. It feels to me. It felt like like you ever watch an improv troupe and like they know it's going wrong, so they all just say fuck it and like start being nihilistic about it and start just being weird, or like an SNL sketch where like it's not working, so one of the actors just starts doing a voice or something. That's my vibe of this. Is I feel like no one involved, or rather everybody involved, knew at some point this isn't working, and they just said fuck it.
The most incredible one is Dakota Johnson.
When she started speaking, I gasped.
Yeah.
I literally went, like, I know she's better than that. Even in 50 Shades of Grey.
She throws away every single line. Like, could not bring herself to care about one thing she said.
Right.
It was incredible.
the interviews around this film, it's clear that she just, like, at some point in the production, she was like, I'm contractually obligated to do this and I hate it.
It seems like a situation where your people are all saying, hey, this is a Marvel movie. You got to do a Marvel movie for the big payday. All right, fine, I'll do a Marvel movie. And she is slouching her way through this. Like,
It's amazing. Both her and Adam Scott. I felt like maybe they hated each other on set because they have no chemistry. They're just letting these lines fall flat.
It's like when the baseball team was forced to do drama.
Yeah.
Just like really throwing it away.
It really is, because like that's the whole, like, I think everybody comes out of this clean because it's so messy that it's hard to pin down what went wrong.
I mean, man, the writing is so bad. But the other thing that's amazing about Dakota Johnson is she's aggressively unlikable.
Yes. Oh my God. It's like she's trying to be. It's so weird. She's so weird.
She's so like weird, and she doesn't like people, yet she's a paramedic. So like, why would she enter into a career of helping people when she has no empathy? That's like her arc is that she has to learn to stop being selfish and care about others. It's like, so why on earth did she decide to be a paramedic?
There's a part where a child gives her a drawing and she is baffled by it.
She's acting like she just got handed like a mysterious carving from some kid that crawled out of a hole in a tree. She's like, what do I do with this? And Adam Scott is like, just take it.
Yeah, take it.
You
say thank you.
Martian.
Have you ever received a gift before in your life?
What are you doing?
Yeah. It is a fascinating performance.
And it's a fascinating character. Like, she's written like a real asshole, and then she's playing it with such like at gunpoint energy almost.
Her incredible vibe, her arc, like, I didn't even realize until the moment where she sees her mom flashback with like the powers in this are there's one point where she communicates with the villain. Yeah, she communicates with the villain through a dream, and they never explain why they can communicate really through dreams. There's a lot of that where I'm like, okay, I guess that's something you can do. But when she finds closure with her mom, I didn't even realize that's what she was looking for. When she's like, oh, I thought you hated me. And I'm like, you thought your mom hated you because she died? Like, what? Like, I get, like, why is she in the jungle while pregnant?
I think that was it. But
it's so undefined, I felt like, throughout, where it's like there's little hints of it. Like when she goes to the weird the baby shower, and they don't seem to know how to handle a person whose parent died.
Well, because she does this like weird fucking thing, Dave. Like, this is like such... Everybody has been to a party where this fucking dipshit shows up, where they're doing this game where this is a crazy game to begin with, so I can't be that mad at her, I guess.
That's what I mean.
I'm
is like
97% mad at her.
The bridal party is also the baby shower party seems to be baffled by something that's very basic, which is like, oh, my mom passed away when I was young, and they all just like I mean, she's not making it better. Like, I know that's what you're getting up to.
Yeah, it's this game where you're supposed to write on a card like something you like about your mom. Or like a good memory you have about your mom. And she just fucking puts in a blank card.
She puts in a blank,
And then they pull it out. And they're like, well, why is it blank? And it's like, well, you know, I don't actually have a mom. Like, it's such like a... So they all have to ask and say, oh, she died before I was born in the Amazons researching spiders. Like, it's such a pull all of the attention in the room towards me move.
Yes, because
like,
she
why
could
would
just
you
not
put in a blank
card?
Or say something like, we learned that she grew up in foster care and she defends foster care to the teens later. So we know she had like at least a halfway decent foster home. Put in a nice memory about your foster parents.
It's the thing where it's like
it's the thing like with the drawing. It's like, how do you not know how to approach this? Like, you're also correct. Like everybody else at the baby shower is behaving weirdly about her.
They act like she took a dump on the floor.
Like it was a real faux pas for her to mention the fact that her parents are dead.
It is really weird. Like, they should react to, why did you put in a blank piece of paper? You clearly want attention.
You just wanted us to ask you why you put in a blank piece of paper so you could tell us your tragic story, and then we could all the attention in the room could now be on you. except this is a baby shower.
Right. It is absolutely the person. Like, there are people like this who show up at parties.
Oh, yeah.
And they try to act like it's like the person at a bar reading like a please talk to me book, like pay attention to me book, like that. Like, it's that idea of like trying to act standoffish while doing something that's like
right in your screen.
It's like someone reading a book quietly while wearing like a Dr. Seuss hat. Like, it's like they clearly want attention, but they don't want to. They're acting like they don't want it. And it's like, yeah, don't fucking do this. Why would you do this?
Yeah.
Just don't put a piece of paper
It's such
in
a
there.
dickweed move, man.
It's so weird.
But you're right. It's like the drawing. It's like, how do you not know how to navigate this situation? Like,
I don't
either
know.
put in a memory about your foster parents or don't put in a card, you fucking ghoul. What are you doing? It's such a weird scene.
Every scene in this is fucking weird.
And she's completely monotone the entire film.
The entire film. She's not the only. The villain was the villain dubbed.
No.
What was going on? Okay, because
I mean, maybe in some of those scenes, maybe they had to do more recording, but
okay, because he was doing a thing, and like, I mean, the villain also. I mean, they're all. It's
the
all
villain. The whole movie starts because. So Madam Web's deal is her special power is supposed to be she can see the future, but the movie starts because the bad guy has a dream of him being murdered by 3 spider women at some point in the future.
Yes, in costumes. What a weird dream to be having.
And it's a dream. We find out later this dream has plagued him. He's had this dream for years, Dave.
And he consults this like weird hacker in his house. And yeah, he's like, I must kill these teenage girls because I've had this dream about them. It's very dumb.
He casually meets this NSA agent at the opera.
Yes.
And then has sex with her to steal her NSA credentials, which she brought with her to the opera.
There's so many weird... Yeah, that fucking... Okay.
Anyway, I just wanted to put it...
Sorry,
the thing I was pointing out by mentioning Madam Web's powers is that apparently the bad guy can also see the future too sometimes.
Because he has the spider thing. Yeah, sometimes, but only like weird premonitions. And then that's not how he ends up dying.
So I took that to mean that he wasn't dead.
Yeah. I mean,
a big Pepsi
maybe they wanted that for the
falls
sequel.
on him, but like a Pepsi sign could fall on Spider-Man and he wouldn't be dead.
So many threads to pull out here, and it's really tough. It's really tough to stay focused.
There's a shocking amount of Pepsi in it.
Yes, there is. And then, yeah, a Pepsi sign falls. Fuck. And when he poisons the NSA agent, by the way, her line is, "How are you poisoning me?" That's the first thing she says to recognize she's been poisoned.
And I think
that drove
it also, I just wanted to point out that line did sound ADR.
Okay, yes. Yes, because I think it was unclear that he was poisoning her. But they couldn't make the line go like, "Oh my God, I'm being poisoned," or "I don't
what's
feel well."
happening to me.
Yes. So her first indication she gets poisoned and says how. She wants to know how she's being poisoned. That's her first inquiry in that moment. There's so many things.
She immediately knows she's being poisoned, which must take a lot of training or knowledge.
But there's a lot of that ADR where they cut to like the back of someone's head and they say a bunch of shit.
Yeah, trying to fill in the gaps, trying to spackle it up.
I need to know what kind of disaster this movie was because
oh my God.
We're talking about performances. There's so much.
There's so much to cover. This movie was so boring. It was
okay.
It takes place in 2003, and I've seen plenty of other reviewers make this point as well. It feels like it was made in 2003. Like it's
really
got
does.
that weird, uncertain, like it doesn't believe in its own premise in a way that a lot of those early superhero movies didn't, where they were like Daredevil and even like the first X-Men is weird kind of in that way, where they're not like, they're kind of doing it like half-heartedly because like there is this cool, are people gonna like this?
Right.
So like when we've finally gotten to like Iron Man and the MCU stuff, it's more just confidently embracing it. So there's like this weird uncertainty with the tone, so they pull back on the superhero stuff. But instead, it just becomes this slog of scene after scene of people just vomiting out dialogue that has like 6 or 7 too many words in it. Like each line has a little too many words in it.
So that reminds me, when he kills the NSA agent, he says, I wrote this down.
Oh, sweet.
Believe me, it's good you had no idea today was the day you're going to die.
Yep.
And I don't know what that meant.
He said that to no one, by the way. He said that to an empty room.
Believe me, it's good you had no idea today was the day you're going to die. Okay. What? There's so many lines like that. And yeah, this movie is basically, it's all the worst scenes of a superhero movie. The exposition, the sweaty dialogue, with none of the action.
Yeah, they never get to be superheroes, by the way. That never happens.
She hits the villain with her car twice.
It's like her move.
It's her signature move.
It's her limit break, Dave. Yeah. She hits him with her car.
This is what I wanted to, like, okay. This is why everybody comes out clean, is I think they had no idea how to make this movie, and I think there's some stuff about this movie that I genuinely like. It's not in the movie, for the record. It's around the movie.
None of it made it in.
Right, meaning that it's like these broad premises that I'm like, oh yeah, you could do something with that.
Yeah.
Number one, and the big one, is the idea that the main character basically has no superpowers. That actually is compelling to me because so many superhero movies have the opposite issue where you're like, Thor is not in danger ever, right? Like Thor never seems, it's the opposite issue where it's like the villain is Spider-Man. What do you do with that? That's like Homelander shit, right? Where it's like, that can be a compelling idea. The answer, she hits him with her car several times.
Yeah.
They didn't know what to do with that.
Yeah, he's...
Also...
Yeah, so as a result, he's never formidable.
Yes.
He just shows up and gets bodied in some clownish series of Final Destination events.
Right. The other premise, which is someone who can see a few minutes into the future, is compelling. However, there is a movie, Tom, that you might know called Next with Nicolas Cage, which is the exact same premise. And dare I say, that terrible Nicolas Cage movie does a better job.
Well, it's also a less impressive version of Edge of Tomorrow.
Yes, it really is. Because the way they depict her psychic abilities is there's a couple good moments where it's almost like a horror movie where the sound is really jarring.
Yeah.
But then they sort of stop. That's as far as they can go with it. They don't think of new ways to do that ability. So by the end, it's just us following her and she's going, go this way, duck, do this. And we're like, okay, I guess she knows this because she's living the scene out. But they never really show it anymore.
It's a tough power to like explain, like convey visually. I get that.
The problem is there was a movie called Next that did it better.
Yeah.
Because if you remember near the third act of Next, they were faced with the same problem. They said, how do we reintroduce this premise in an interesting way? What they did was a sequence where Nicolas Cage splits into multiple versions of himself and explores this building. The idea is they have a limited time to find the bad guys in this building. So they do a sequence where there's like hundreds of Nicolas Cages wandering through this warehouse. And the idea is that he didn't physically split into multiple things. We're just seeing all the different timelines of these 2 minutes that he's relived over and over again to figure this out. That was an interesting way to do it. That movie's terrible. Terrible movie.
Yeah, but like in Edge of Tomorrow, which is a good movie, they just kind of do it. Like you just live the scene. Yeah, and then it's, that was one of the loops.
Right.
They bake that into the narrative so you get surprised by it too.
Right. They never can figure it out, and it ends up being like jumbled, and in the editing, like it's hard to even talk about the editing in this or because it's all kind of... It feels like they never figured it out. and they failed the entire time.
And again, it can't hit this hard enough. Like, she is so goddamn bored by all of it. Like, every time she has one of her premonitions, it's like she barely cares. There's God, there's one scene where she's giving CPR to this man on the ground and then just stops. Like, she just stops and says, "This guy's ready." Like, that's not how that works.
No, it's not. Not at all. It is. She is unfazed by every moment of this film. It doesn't help that, like, the three young girls who seem to be good actresses, they don't get their dynamic that they just fight the entire time.
They're all one-dimensional. They all have a single character trait. And they just, like, everybody's kind of an asshole in this movie.
Everybody's really unpleasant.
Yeah.
Everybody. Uncle Ben. They're all just generally Ben. Like, fucking Adam Scott. Adam Scott, again, they all seem to know that there's no use, where they're like, this movie's not going to be good.
What is the point of this movie?
Yeah, because that's the other thing is, like, the premise of a weirder movie, right? Like, again, if they made this weirder, if they understood that she has this limited power, right? And it's like she's the underdog. You need to make a movie around that, but they wanted to hit all the same superhero beats. And it's like, no, this has to be like, you have to, like, this is a beautiful opportunity to reinvent superhero films, to do something unconventional. And they just tried to fit it in that same.
Yeah, there's part of that in this.
Yeah.
But yeah, they trying to do it in like the idea of she can see a little bit in the future, but she can't control when it happens. The images don't always make sense. She knows she has to stop this scary ass man who can walk on the ceilings and shit from murdering these three teens, but doesn't really understand why. That's all a good movie. Like, that could be good. But they spend so much time on all this lore and all this positioning, like they're trying to build out another cinematic universe with these characters who are going to get powers at some point in the future. Not in this movie.
Not in this film.
Not in this movie.
Yes, this film is all origin.
Yeah.
To the point that it forgets to have a superhero in it.
A superhero never shows up.
Like, I would argue that this is all first act stuff in this movie. And so, like, it makes it, a lot of it is we're in a car, we're driving, we're stopping, we're talking about stuff.
Yeah.
Remember when after the subway scene, there's no reason for her not to go to the police. There is literally no reason. And she steals a cab and drives away with these three girls into the woods. And, like, why not go to the cops in that moment? Like, there's no reason not to go to the police in that moment.
Well, one of the girls tells them she can't, or else she'll get deported. Because she won't get deported. She'll get put into foster care.
Right, but that's later. Like, when she has the cab.
That's true. She doesn't know that yet.
Yeah, she should drive right to the cops in that moment. Instead, when she learns on the radio that she's, like, wanted for kidnapping, like, go to the cops. Go to the cop and go, I didn't kidnap these girls. Here they are.
That scene where she's trying to do, like, a little bit of mugging and stammering, like, I don't know what's going on here. I just know that I had to save you girls, but I didn't kidnap you. I saved you, right? And I'm going to take you to your parents, and your parents are going to know what's right for you. And then she hears on the radio, she's like, see, hear that? The cops are sure going to hunt that guy down. Boy, I hope they catch that guy. Like, I'm not exaggerating that much of these lines. And then when she hears that they're looking for her, she's like, what? And she's looking back at the girls behind, like, but you guys saw, but it's just, it's so, like, so limp. It's such a limp performance. Like, it's like seething with contempt. How bored she is with every line she has. It feels like
after every take, the director went, cut. All right, I guess that's what we're getting. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it feels like. It is
an
wild,
astounding performance.
She's throwing the whole thing. Like, it's like a a protest performance.
Yeah, she's taking a dive.
Yeah, it's like she's trying to point out how bad the movie is by just saying the lines with no to like point out these are the lines they're making me say.
Yeah,
like,
I'm not
these are the
to sell this. You can't.
Yeah, it's incredible. incredible performance. Like, it's the most entertaining part of the movie, which is a real bummer to say. God, remember, so again, I really do think the big problem is they wanted to hit the same beats, because they're doing this thing where, like, it's trying to be an origin story for her, right? It's this
for her, and for the three girls who are going to become Spider Women as well.
Yes, but they don't fucking. They're
barely characters. Yeah.
I don't know what they thought. I assume they thought, like, oh, people are going to love this movie so much and be pumped for the next one that we'll get to play this long game. You know, they're doing that thing. We've talked about this a million times. The problem with the cinematic universe is they start getting so ahead of themselves that they forget to make a good movie in the moment.
Right, yeah. That's... it's like incidental.
It's going to be so good.
It's like the third or fourth thing down the list is making the actual movie.
Right, so they're too busy setting up all these other movies that this current movie doesn't exist. And so they're going through, like, what is the things in a superhero
Sorry to keep interrupting you, but you're right.
No.
Like, when you say this movie doesn't exist, like, this is a nothing movie.
Right.
Like, walking out of the theater, I was like, what was the point of that movie?
There were so many kids in my theater, and they were
they could not have been happy. They must have been so bored. This is like the dullest movie.
It really is. Here's the issue with the action. So, again, you're making a superhero movie. If they made this weird, if they said this isn't an action movie, this is a different type of movie, which they really should have done. Make it like a horror movie or something. Do something interesting with this. But since they didn't, they were like, we need to have action scenes, right? Like, at these points, we need to have an action scene. Mm-hmm. The problem is that she can't do anything. And for them, like, they again,
not only that, nobody else can do anything.
Nobody else. And that's an interesting idea if you do something interesting with it. So instead of action scenes, they do scenes where the villain shows up, murders them. It happens twice, horribly beats them and murders them, and then they reverse and go, okay, that was a vision, and then the actual action that she does is leave. Is go, we got to get out of here. And that's it. So instead of action scenes, we get these moments where the action, the quote-unquote action, is watching, like, a spider-powered guy murder teenagers, and then we're like, okay, we fulfilled the action.
And then occasionally get hit by a car.
Yes. And then our heroes
and then a
are
Pepsi
basically...
sign falls on him.
Yes, our heroes are always fleeing. Even the ending is them fleeing him. They never fight. They just have to flee and avoid things. And then the end is literally her avoiding things strategically so that something falls on the bad guy.
Yeah.
And they never seem to realize, like, you can't make this a superhero movie. You can't try to triumphantly have them run away the whole movie. And they try to do the ending where the hero gets fully realized, where it's like you're doing it, Peter.
Yeah.
And it's when she splits off. And so
I didn't understand what was happening in that moment.
Yeah.
I thought they were trying to tell us she is looking at all of the different possible things that could happen.
Too.
That's what I thought they were trying to tell us. But no, they were actually telling us that she was astral projecting her ghost to all three girls at once. Yeah, it's a new power we've never seen before.
When she goes to Peru briefly, they tell her, like, you're going to have other powers. But it's like, have her have that power early, because that's an interesting power.
Yeah.
That's the first. But what's even more amazing is, so it's like the three girls are all, like, semi-falling, and she has the moment where it's like, it's time to become, Madam Web.
Oh,
she
right.
splits off, and then when she splits off, the craziest thing is she doesn't really help. She just kind of helps them up.
Yeah, she coaches
she goes,
them
like,
a little
here,
bit.
take my hand. Yeah, so it's like she astral projects to do something that I feel like they could have done without her. It felt like they didn't actually really need her help in that moment.
Do you remember how that ends? How that scene ends?
No.
Is she sitting there, like, what? So all three of the girls are in some stage of falling. They're about to fall off the girders of this. And then the bad guy, Ezekiel, says, you can't save all of them. But he says it, I think, with 5 extra words than that.
Yeah.
And then she's like, oh, but yeah, I can. And then she just does this pose and starts, like, sending her ghosts out to save all the girls. So then he just punches her in the chest as hard as he can. And she flies back into a wall. Because she's just standing there in front of him doing this weird little pose.
You're right.
So he's
like,
going to knock
am
the
I
shit
allowed
out
to just
of
hit
you.
her?
Yeah.
I think I can just hit her. That's not going to hurt me, is it? No, it didn't hurt me. I could just hit her.
Boy, she's just giving me this one.
And so she gets blinded and loses
She gets
paralyzed at the end.
It's a real Revenge of the Sith moment where they had to he's got to lose 3 limbs and get burned by lava in the same instant.
Yes.
So
it has to happen immediately.
So she gets blown into the Pepsi sign and careens off of it like the Titanic propeller guy. And then when she lands in the water, she gets hit in the face with just like a flaming piece of wreckage.
Yeah, it happened so fast that I didn't even realize it happened.
It was bewildering.
Until at the end, she's in a wheelchair and blind. I'm like, wait.
I was like, holy shit. It was... It's like the scene in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein when De Niro rips Helena Bonham Carter's heart out, throws it into the fireplace, and then dives through the window.
Yeah, where you're like, a lot just happened in 20 seconds.
Like 3 humongous things happen in 6 seconds.
Holy fucking shit. All right, so like my other note about this is, so it ends with her like blind in this wheelchair, which, listen, it's, I know that the idea is like, she's living a happy life. She has a disability, but she's living a happy life. But the reason why is because she can astral project.
Yeah, she's got this power.
I guess what I want to point out is that, again, a very interesting idea, which is a superhero who has a disability, right?
Right.
Have her get that accident in the first
act, right.
And have her learn to live with it and then astral project. Because basically she just goes, it's okay because I can astral project. I don't need to learn to deal with this disability at all.
She just sort of takes like her entire world and life has just changed dramatically. And it's just like, she says something weird at the end where she's like, this is my family, happy. All my girls or something. Yeah. Like she's like,
and she's just like,
surrogate
I'm
mom now.
Happy.
They all have parents.
Right. They do. You're right. She just sort of decides to adopt them. Because, by the way, because a nurse walks in the room, says, is this your family?
Is this your immediate family?
She says that line, and then the nurse leaves because the nurse wasn't there to do anything. That pinged me. The nurse is just there to tee her up for a line.
Oh, yeah.
And then the nurse leaves.
There's a moment where she pulls out her mom's like memorabilia suitcase out from under her bed and is looking through her mom's old journals. And she finds a photo from earlier in the movie. That's just a picture of her mom pregnant in the rainforest. And then she finds another photo later on, which is a photo of her mom and the villain together. And she looks at the back of it and sees her mom's name and the villain's name, Ezekiel, in 1973. And again, it's another, like, clearly looks like a production still, but it's 1973 they showed us is the year that her mom was murdered in the jungle by Ezekiel. So who took that photograph and developed it and labeled it and put it in her mom's journal?
There's a lot of that.
Doesn't make sense, Dave. Timeline doesn't add up.
There's a lot of stuff where, again, it's they started from, this is what we want to happen, right?
Yeah.
And we just need it to happen. One of the first things that happened that, like, it's really hard because there's a lot of this stuff that's just like slightly weird or like slightly off. But like the one that really called attention is that beginning scene. She's in the jungle and Ezekiel's like, I've been looking for this spider my whole life. And she's like, I've been looking for this spider my whole life. We're close. And then there's like a scene and then she walks into the scene and goes, found the spider.
Yeah.
And it's like, you found that off screen? Like they don't, like this idea of this coveted thing. It's like if Indiana Jones showed up off screen and was just like, okay, here's
found the grail, yeah. And later in the movie, the bad guy's got the spider in this terrarium in the middle of his apartment, and he keeps taking it out and playing with it. And it's like, bro, that took you 40 years to find.
Right.
Stop harassing the spider.
Yeah. It's so weird. Like, imagine
maybe put a lock on it. You murdered 3 people for this spider.
Right. imagine an opening that's like Raiders, where it's like a booby trap. Like that would have been a compelling opening, right? Is like
cool.
But they don't do that. That happens off screen. It's just them at a camp. It's so much of just people talking.
Yeah.
Like they don't know
Every
when
scene
to.
It's just people droning on and on.
Multiple times she leaves the girls somewhere and says, I have to go learn stuff. Be right back. She leaves them in the woods to go learn stuff. There's a lot of like there and back again where she
goes to Peru and comes back in 16 hours.
The feeling I got was they wanted to reuse their sets because she goes to the diner and back to have like that weird dream. She goes to her apartment and back. She goes to Peru and back. And it felt like they are just like when you think about what kind of sets this movie had, it's like a couple houses and a diner and a hotel. And it feels like they were really trying to budget.
Don't forget the woods.
And the woods, yeah. When she hits the guy with the fucking car the second time, does she bust through a Pepsi sign? I was so unclear on the geography because they show her in like
Madison Square Garden. Times Square.
Times Square. He's attacking them, and then it cuts to her in like a parking lot, and she seems to know where she's going, and I'm not sure why. I guess
she's Madam Web, bro. That's her power.
Yeah, and she crashes through a wall, and then she comes out on the other side through like a sign that's like
one of the billboards. Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't know what the geography of that was.
And then he jumps up to get hit by the car.
Yeah.
He jumps into it. Like if he had stayed where he was, the ambulance would have sailed over his head.
Yeah.
It's a bad move, Ezekiel.
In that ambulance scene, there's a part where she gets the EMT kit and uses a smoke bomb from it. Did I see that correctly?
Yeah.
She throws like a smoke grenade, and that I can only assume she got from the ambulance. Like, where did she get the smoke grenade? Was there something I missed?
Why is that in an ambulance?
That's what I'm saying. Like, why is there a smoke grenade in the EMT and like 60 flares? Like, there's so many flares in that fucking ambulance.
Listen, it's an emergency vehicle.
I guess.
Flares are important to have.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you pack that full of flares.
Yeah, you never want to have too little flares.
Yeah. This movie is baffling.
This movie I can't wrap my head around it all. It was so when she gets to Peru and I looked at my phone, looked at the time on my phone and saw there was still like 30 minutes left in this movie. I was like, "Oh shit."
It's
brother. Like I'm not being hyperbolic for the sake of comedy when I say that nothing happens in this movie.
Nothing.
Not really. Like it's she meets these three teens, saves them from Ezekiel, a Pepsi sign falls on him. And then they get like a vision of how they're going to be a superhero team sometime in the future, but not in this movie that we're showing you now. Right. You're not going to see any of that. That stuff's coming later.
There's just so little joy.
Like it's like they're promising this cool superhero movie later on.
Right. It's like we're going to do a bunch of exposition work in this movie.
Yeah.
And you watch this movie and then you don't have to be confused for the other movies that we swear will happen are good.
It felt like homework in that way.
Yeah. Did you nobody said did people say hangry in 2002? Because there were
2003.
I was just in 2003 because I'm pretty sure that's a 2010 thing. Like those Snickers commercials and stuff. I just point that out. I can't remember if
Hangry was around back then or not. It's been around for a while.
Let me look. It just strikes me because this movie takes place in 2003 and then never really feels like it is. Like it's the most bare minimum. Like they don't really have fun with that. Yeah, those ads are 2010. Sorry, the Snickers commercials at least. The phrase has been around for a while, I think.
Yeah.
But they just keep saying it. I thought like, oh, that must be a phrase. There's one part where she goes, I have to go home and watch Idol because I feel like they remembered, oh, right, it's 2003.
Yeah, and then they don't show her watching Idol.
Right, and they don't really have anything to say about 2003. It's just because of the Spider-Man thing they needed to do.
Yeah, that's it. It's just because she has to be this age in order for Uncle Ben to be this age and in order for Peter to be born in this movie. They really Gotham it up.
It's really bare minimum with a lot of that stuff.
There was one part that was incredible to me, and I think it sums up a lot of the sort of the kind of the cynicalness of the movie. Is there's a scene. It cuts to her in her apartment where she's watching the Alistair Sim Christmas Carol.
Oh my God.
And it's not Christmas time. She's only watching it so they can show the scene where he's talking to the Christmas future, and Scrooge's like, are these shadows of things that must be or things that might be? Just so she can have that seeing the future connection and say, like, ironically, sorry, Scrooge, but you can't change anything.
I wrote it down. Hate to break it to you, Scrooge, but you can't change anything.
Yeah, just watching Christmas Carol in the middle of fucking July or whatever.
And then a bird hits the window. They needed to do this work where they knew they needed her to think, okay, she can change something, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, in the middle of July, watching Scrooge for some reason, she says that out loud to the TV. Then a bird hits the window.
There are other movies about future sight. About visions of the future you could have had her watching. Nobody would just be casually watching A Christmas Carol in the middle of the year.
Public domain, baby. They were just like, listen, we're not spending any money. A bird hits the window, and then she flashes back, right? And then she goes to the window and opens it and says out loud, this isn't gonna change anything. And then it saves the bird, and she goes, I guess you can change something. End of scene. Yep. And it's like, fuck, man. Like, it's so unsubtle. She has to be a lot. She's like, when she's reading her mom's journal, she reads it out loud. Like, there's so many moments where it's just a character reading exposition out loud to the audience.
Man, and it's not only that it's unsubtle, it's not exciting. Like, that shouldn't be the way that you discover you can change a future event, by opening a window so a pigeon doesn't crash into it.
I know, that's the thing.
Like, that's supposed to be, like, that's the moment in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man where Tobey Maguire starts jumping across rooftops. Like, that's supposed to be that's the same scene.
Right. You have to have her go out. Like, this is the thing, like, she at no point does she embrace the idea of I want to be a hero. So, like, this is the first act. That is exactly what it is the first act moment where, like, so it first happens where she's an EMT and she sees that her friend is going to die. And
her mentor, Mike Epps.
Yes, because of her performance and because of how it's edited, I got what happened, but it felt very muddled still. And she has to, like, sort of say, I'm seeing the future to somebody. Because I feel like they were like worried that people wouldn't get it. And for good reason, because they didn't seem to know how to show it clearly. And then that's the point where she has to say, like, this would have been so much easier if that death was her Uncle Ben, right? And it wasn't. Like, it happens, and then she seems to forget about this guy from there on.
And we never mentioned him again.
Right. She needs to have a moment where she's obsessed with it and goes like, I could have saved him. I could have saved him. And then she goes out to try to find somebody to save, right? Like, that's what we needed, is a moment where she then, like, not a fucking pigeon, but like a person being mugged or another accident. She's a paramedic.
Right.
Like,
and
you could just have her on a
she's so
call.
Resistant to helping people in this movie.
Right. Why make her a paramedic if she doesn't use the power as a paramedic? That's what I assumed was going to happen, right? She goes out on a call.
Yeah.
Something bad happens and she then saves it. But it feels like they have to cram more than... Like, they're like, we need people to know exactly how these powers work, that we're gonna like push aside, because all you have to do is, we know about spider sense, right? Like, we know about Spider-Man's spider sense.
Yeah.
So just put in some bullshit like spiders, like introduce the idea of spider sense, which all the other Spider-Man movies do in seconds. Like, the Tobey Maguire one has like one scene where they're in the spider
time slows down
place. Yeah, just have them explain.
Oh, you mean the explaining
thing?
Yeah,
like, just have someone say, like, some spiders have like almost a precognition ability.
It's bullshit.
It's bullshit, but they explain it, right? That's
We're
all
not
we need to know.
confused by it.
She has advanced spider sense. Bam. That's it, you know? Like, they seem to not... I don't know. They seem to be obsessed with, we need to tell you exactly how this is happening.
Like I said, it feels like a movie from 2003. Like, it has no faith in the audience's ability to understand all this superhero nonsense and also be cool with it. It's like, they haven't been paying attention to the past 15 years of movies.
And so the whole movie is spent with exposition. There's
just these windbags dealing out this exposition that is so stupid and so melodramatic.
It's all the scenes between action scenes for 2 hours. And not the good kind. And then, like when remember the fortune cookie scene? Like when they're supposed to be riffing off of each other, and there's like weird pauses in the dialogue.
It's just so
someone compared it to
written.
A Zoom call. Yeah,
it does kind of feel like that.
Yeah, because there's nothing there.
Yeah,
there's no charisma, no chemistry between them.
It's a wasteland. This movie.
It really is.
It's such an odd movie. I cannot for the life of me understand why they made this.
I think it still stems from trying to make a unique and weird movie and then take that movie, because she's a unique and weird character, right? To decide to do Madam Web is to say, like, we're going to do something fucking weird.
It's bold. Yeah. It's a real challenge.
Right. And then at some point the studio must have gotten scared and said, try to just make it a superhero film. And it's like, well, then you need to not make Madam Web. Like, you need to make a new, different thing. They couldn't even make her an old lady. Like, even this is in 2023. She's still not going to be old when Peter Parker.
No, she's going to be like 50.
Yeah. And it's like they couldn't even make her an old lady. They were so averse to anything unusual or like seen as unconventional. There's nothing unconventional about an old lady, but like for Hollywood,
for a superhero movie, for a blockbuster movie like this, they can't have any women older than 38.
Exactly. And so they couldn't take this weird idea and make it the weird thing it needed to be. And I feel like there's like little hints of that it was. Like, I really think like the subway scene when it's really jarring and confusing and it's like horror jumps, I think that was the strongest the movie is.
Yeah.
And it felt like there was something there that got completely fucking overshadowed by this larger need to make a superhero movie. And the movie is, there's nothing here. There's nothing to make don't try to make a fucking superhero movie out of this.
Yeah, it's just nothing. This, like I said, this movie is a wasteland.
It is. It really is. Fuck, man. Madam Web, incredible.
Villain's crushed by a Pepsi sign.
Crushed by a Pepsi sign. That I think he caused to fall, right?
Yeah.
Jesus fucking Christ.
This is a intolerably boring movie. It's not fun bad. It's just boring.
It has the best way to like watch this movie is the way Twitter's been like showing clips of like all the most incredible line deliveries.
Yeah.
Like those moments, like watch it in a montage.
Yeah, that's true. I did say it's bad in a fascinating way, and that's still mostly true. So you could watch this. Movies, you could watch this in like a scientific way.
Yes,
and really probably get some enjoyment out of it, just to be confounded at every decision that's being made.
It is really fucking baffling.
It's just.
Remember she has a cat?
Oh yeah.
Why'd she have a cat?
I don't know. It's such a great example of what we were saying earlier of the story being like the fifth or sixth consideration.
Right.
So it is a movie about nothing.
Yes. Remember when she says she was a foster kid and she was the best foster kid because she peed outside and everything? Mm-hmm. And then the scene just keeps going like she didn't just say something completely weird.
Yeah, she says it to Adam Scott and he just kind of, they let it hang there for a second and it's really awkward and then they just move on.
I think the attempts at humor is the most fascinating part of this because I think they were trying to go for like charming, befuddled humor that was really dependent. I feel like it's almost Dakota Fanning pointing out there's no jokes here. You know what I mean? Where it's like, and I think a lot of superheroes fall on this issue, which is like they'll say it funny, or like they'll say a line and they'll say it in a funny way. And then when you think about it for more than a second, you're like, that didn't mean anything, did it?
It didn't make any sense, yeah.
And I feel like it was them like almost protesting by being like, I'm going to just say these lines flat so you can hear them and process them.
You can hear them land.
Yeah. And they don't mean anything.
Yeah. Gosh, this movie.
I don't think I have anything
I'm done,
else.
man. I'm ready to be done.
Yeah. All right, I have one final thing to say.
Sure.
Which is, it just bugs me to no end, and this is across the board, is that we're getting all these like post-peak Marvel afterthought movies, and it's no coincidence that they're the ones that have like the most women, and like the like people of color and like diverse characters, and they're gonna learn the wrong lesson from that. And we've already seen that with Bob Iger saying like, the problem is we have too many messages in these movies. And it's like, there's no messages.
No.
What you're saying is there's just diverse people in these movies, and I can't stress enough that's not the problem.
Well, the problem is you didn't start making those until 13 years after saturating the market with smashing action figures together.
And now they're just like, I saw both Blue Beetle and the Marvels, and they're perfectly fine movies had they been made 10 years ago. That's their only problem, is that we've seen it all before. And so it's just like, it's irritating because like there's been a few whiffs like this. That said, that's not this movie's problem.
No, this movie is bad.
Yes. This movie is bad in an incredible way.
Yeah, really astounding way. I really admire Sony's adherence to not putting Spider-Man in a single one of their goddamn Spider-Man movies.
They seem to want to do this like Spider-Man cinematic universe around him. And it's like, I'm sorry, there's nothing. So far, you haven't shown me anything interesting enough for that. Like, I think they think, like, you know how Batman, one of the best things about Batman is like these villains. And you could almost see them having their own movie, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think you can do that for Spider-Man.
No.
And I think they don't. I get it, because you look, he has a lot of villains too, right?
Yeah, he does.
They're interesting, but I think you still kind of need Spider-Man. I don't know.
At some point, it'd be pretty cool. That really would have made Morbius a cool movie, as if Morbius fought Spider-Man in it. That'd be cool.
Yeah. Still wouldn't have been that cool.
No, it wouldn't have been.
This was greenlit right after Morbius, so that makes me think that Sony is just like, all right, so our quest to make terrible films continues.
Yeah.
Like, all right, Morbius, perfect. We nailed it.
God,
what else
that
can we
movie,
fuck up?
Holy cow.
I love
Let's be done, Dave.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thank
Don't
you.
See Madam Web.
Or
Don't encourage it.
do, but not in the theater.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we'll probably watch this on a Friday night.
Oh, yeah. This is a good candidate.
Yeah.
It's so boring. We're going to put people to sleep. It's going to be the worst hangout ever.
What we're referring to is we actually have Friday movie nights through our Patreon, patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. For $5 a month, you get access to exclusive podcasts like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Fox Mulder's Maniac, Star Trek The Next Futurama, Spiel Boys, and Friday night movie nights, where we watch mostly bad movies. Usually we try to make them interesting,
We aim for fun bad. We aim for fun bad.
Yes. And I don't know, man. This is on the line.
I mean,
sure.
Sometimes we get Robot Jocks. Sometimes we get Madam Web.
Yeah.
We also have a store. Head over to gamefullyunemployed.com, where you can find a link to our Teespring store, where we have all kinds of cool original artwork and designs. So you can get on t-shirts, mugs, stickers, posters, all sorts of things. So slap your web shooting peepers onto that.
Yeah.
God,
no,
Dave,
there's
this
no web
movie.
shooting peepers.
Not one web was shot.
Not one web was shot, except for a psychic web at the end.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. That was, I guess, a web.
And the Pepsi sign
her last name is
falls
Web.
on him. Yeah. Yeah, little on the nose.
Little on the nose. It's,
What are the odds?
What are the fucking odds? Son of a bitch. Great movie.
Yeah, I can't wait for the sequel.